Welcome, horror fam, to HHN 365, a Halloween Horror Nights podcast. My name is Duff, and as always, I'm here with my co-hosts, Jess and Jonathan. What's going on, guys?
So much information. I can't process everything.
Yeah, a little bit of an overload going on. Jonathan, putting together the outline, I'm blaming you.
Jonathan
Mhm.
for writing all the details needed to make this podcast good.
Still, you wrote it. It's on you.
That is true. That is true.
We were good before we had all the details. It just wasn't organized.
But before we get into all that stuff, please give us a follow on social media. That's Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at HHN365, our TikTok at HHN365pod. Check out our Discord. We have an active server that talks about all this stuff all the time. Like, all the time. Check that link in the description. Our merch shop at HHN365.com. And if you want to leave us a voicemail and have that played here on the show, that'll be 407-906-4134. And on today's show, we're going over all that news. That's our main segment, obviously. That's all we got. But we do have a couple things that we would like to say. One, thanks for coming to our YouTube live this week, or last week by the time you're listening to this. As always, they are a blast. They should be coming out, I feel like, weekly at this point with everything going on. We'll see about that. No guarantees, but we love doing them. So thank you for joining us. And more importantly, we have another live event coming up, our favorite event of the year, and that is going to be our pre-HHN, HHN 365 live trivia. That'll be on Friday, August 23rd. And I cannot wait to get back into this, guys.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun.
Mm-hmm.
We're, of course, doing it at Half Barrel Beer Project, as we always do. This will be starting at 8 p.m. And we'd still say, even though it's double the capacity as it used to be, at least 30 minutes before the event starts. So if you want to guarantee yourself a seat, like at a table, 7:30 minimum, please.
That's the
But
latest.
we are setting up additional space for like standing tables, or
Mhm.
more like standing barrels, and they do also have like standing bar space as well. So if you don't get a seat, you can still participate and be in the building, and it's fine. But if you want to guarantee a seat, 7:30. Don't be later than that. And with this live trivia, we're excited to announce that it will come with a sponsor who is going to be Horrors Untold. Now, it's untold. I can't tell you too much right now. So if you want to know more, go to horrorsuntold.com. Check that out. I'm sure we're going to be talking about them a lot more moving forward. But as of right now, that's about all I can tell you. So again, horrorsuntold.com. I think you can go sign up for an email list, and we'll be talking about them in the coming weeks, potentially with a bit more info. We'll see. But definitely check that out as well. But with that, let's move on to some of the news we've received. And of course, the most exciting news of all, we know 3 food items.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
They
we
were
assume
hidden though.
they were
They-
hidden. They were, because they were hidden inside the premiere Scream Night section.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because a lot of, the website, we'll get into it a little bit later, but the website has been basically updated with almost all the information. But this actually wasn't found out until like a day or two after, because no one clicked on the premium Scream Night tab, because I don't think anyone really wanted to. And there they were, the 3 food items. And I think we can get the easy one out of the way just right now. Pizza fries. Oh
No
my
fucking
goodness.
way.
What? What? Shameless plug. Go check out our TikTok. We made pizza fries at home.
Yeah.
Pizza fries.
Yay, they're back. Oh my God.
See,
Who
if it
would
had
have
Reuben
thought?
fries on that page, I go
Jonathan,
berserk.
I'm sorry. I
They're
don't think it's
gone.
happening.
They were too good of a deal, and now Horror Nights realize that, and they won't bring them back.
Premiere Scream Night exclusive, Reuben fries.
Jonathan would go just for that.
Probably. I just spent the whole night eating Reuben fries.
Hey,
Unlimited Reuben fries? Oh, man.
I would
That's a
get
deal
tummy
right
ache.
there.
I don't know.
But we do
Anyways,
yeah,
go ahead.
we do.
You got it. You got it.
I appreciate it. We do have 2 other actually new items on that were on the website besides pizza fries. And the first one is the Heartbeat. It's like spelled like a, beet, BEET, tostada. And the description says this vegan and gluten-free tostada will get your blood pumping with braised ground beets, hearts of palm, hummus and vegan goat cheese in a corn tortilla.
Oh, I mean, listen, I actually like beets, so this sounds really fucking good to me.
You like the taste of the ground?
Yes.
Like, I'm sorry, this is, like, the one thing I can't get behind is beets. I've tried my whole life. I know people who like them, obviously, but this isn't even gonna be, like, a try for me. This is gonna be, like, a watch you eat it as I make a face.
Hmm,
I'm sorry.
that's understandable. For me, the more concerning item is heart of palm. That can be done very poorly.
Yeah. Vegan goat cheese. Like, we've come a long way with vegan, like, substitutes, but goat cheese?
We'll see.
You'll see.
I'll see. I can give you a taste of the cheese if you want.
That yeah, it's just me, like,
Get a
picking
little
one spaghetti.
crumble.
And our next item, besides that one, is a dessert item, and that is the poison apple. This majorly sweet dessert,
Uh,
boom, is worth killing for. With caramel mousse on the outside, chunks of Granny Smith apples on the inside, garnished with chocolate with chocolate cookie crumbs and a gummy centipede. And it's
mm,
weird. It's like Inception because it looks like like an apple, like a caramel apple, but it's actually like not it's mousse with apple on the inside. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
yeah, it does sound interesting. It sounds like it's gonna be too much sweet overload for me potentially,
Oh, I'm gonna
uh,
try this.
but I'll definitely be trying it.
This will be the you stand there and shake your head at me while I eat one of these.
Yeah, I'm gonna be
I
honest.
Yeah,
This
I know.
sounds really delicious.
Yeah.
You know what else sounds delicious?
No. No.
Some popcorn.
I mean, that's true.
It is, yeah. Now, we also had announced. I don't know why it had to be announced, but it was announced. The return of the stitched up Chucky bucket, which will be returning to both Orlando and Hollywood this year with new phrases.
Is he
Yay!
gonna say "heyo"? I want it
I
to say that. I buy it
I
if it's in.
I'd really prefer. I don't care what it says because I'm not going to own it.
This is true.
I was waiting for you to say what one of these new phrases were, I'm not gonna lie.
I
We don't get anything yet?
no, it
Nothing?
did have one of them in it, but it was like I think it was just like I'm one of the most notorious slashers or
Oh
something. It
my
was one of the basic ones. So I
Hmm,
forgot about.
hmm. I forget a lot about Chucky.
That
I
is
Speaking
so
try.
of
I
fair.
try to. Doesn't
well,
always work.
speaking of things I keep trying to forget about, but Universal won't, on August 1st, HHN is teasing that we might get a little Boo line of merch.
Also, yay! Yeah,
Yeah.
we need more Little Boo merch
More than the what is there? There's like a coaster already. There's an ornament.
ornament,
There's a
a
shirt.
shirt.
There's more. Whatever.
I
Is it?
remember.
Anyways, this will be our third year of like just a shit ton of Little Boo merch.
I get it. I understand because it makes money. So I get it.
Yeah, I don't blame them for doing it, and it doesn't hurt me because I just simply probably won't be buying it. Listen, they can put something out good enough that I would buy. It'll just have to be really good,
Mhm.
Yeah.
really good. So we'll see. Anyways, let's move on to the really fun announcements where we got houses, we got zones, and I think that's where we're going to start. Let's start with some scare zones in Orlando that may also lead us to our icons for the year. Of course, that is referring to Duality of Fear. The description for this house: as soon as you enter the gates of Halloween Horror Nights, you must choose a path. Follow Sinister, the manifestation of visceral horror, or follow Surreal, the incarnation of unearthly terror. Tickets
Dun
available
dun
now.
dun.
It's a scare zone, by the way. You did say house.
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's okay because it's a
definitely
zone.
meant Scare Zone.
It's okay.
So I
But
mean,
yeah,
we have our entrance zone. Like here
we
it
do.
is.
This is it. Yeah, it tells us right there. As you enter the gates of Halloween Horror Nights,
But what if it's
it's
Central Park? No, I'm kidding.
yeah, it's not happening. It's definitely kind of maybe implying that it'll have a slightly different layout with the choose a path, because the way it was laid out, you couldn't have choose a path last year. You went one way, and that was the entire zone. Um, However, this could be referring to going to completely separate zones as well. So we'll see if that actually happens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my hope is that they have at least a little bit, like, sort of I think, Duff, you said it best, like, going up to the minion sign, but not, like, crossing it. So, like, have something in that area and then have the rest be where Oddfellows was, and that would be enough to encourage people to either go straight or go right instead of just telling them, "Go right because this is the only way this zone goes." So, I hope they expand into that direction.
Hmm. And you wouldn't have to go far. Just push it just around the corner, and we'll get it. It'll make sense. It'll work.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
hopefully that does happen.
I don't know because where are they both going to be? Because I feel like they both need to be in the zone,
Hmm.
but something as little as the Oddfellow caravan was is not big enough for two of them, in my opinion. So
Are they gonna
how
be
does
split
that?
up? Like,
I don't know.
hmm.
And like we talked about it on the live, I hope that this means that Surreal is in this zone and also in a zone we're going to talk about that's in Hollywood because it's her zone, not like how Oddfellow was just in his zone and they said, well, he's down the street, so he's in Dark Zodiac, which is how he like they got away with him not being there
Hmm.
for him being
Hmm.
in every zone. So I hope that it's not that case. I hope it's that they are both there and they're both in their zones.
I would. I think you can if you put like where the Oddfellow caravan was. I guess that'd be for Surreal, and then maybe like where Pumpkin Lord was for Sinister.
Oh.
Kind of as their like podium spots.
Ooh, make them tall and then they can fight each other
Mm,
over
yeah.
the mic.
So yeah, I am excited to see if we even actually do get the both of them. I would imagine their faces are literally on this key art,
Yeah.
so like they should be. They should definitely be there. Um, we'll see how it plays out. Because if it is laid out like last year, I won't be too excited for it. But if they kind of do that and use that corner and go both directions, I think I'd be a lot more into that.
Mhm.
But I will say I love the key art for this. It's very cool. And if you haven't seen it, it's like basically split face, like sinister on the left, surreal on the right, duality of fear written right across. They are kind of like color coordinated, where surreal is blue, sinister is red. It's got this very out in space look, if you will.
Yeah.
It's a good looking key art. I gotta say, one of my favorite of the year so far.
Yeah. And color like story, it's very different from most of the key art we got.
Hmm.
And that's exciting.
Now, before we go over to the other zone that was announced, we did get a change to the description of one of the zones. When we had Torture Fair announced before, it didn't announce anything about any character that would be tied to it. After this announcement, and they were all put on the website, Torture Fair was updated to Come One, Come All to Sinister's Renaissance Fair with the devious theme of medieval torture. Brave the gloriously gory homemade torture devices till you're put out of your misery. So basically, what we heard before, but now saying, yeah, this is Sinister Zone. I don't know why they announced this before Duality of Fear, but okay, I
Yeah.
guess it works.
It, it's a weird choice. I'm also curious as to what this means because we did see some mock-up art that we're going to talk about eventually and we'll get more into that, but where does she play the role now in this whole entire zone?
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a good question. So there is, we'll give that away now. There's kind of like a king and a queen shown in the concept art. Uh, and they will be on the stage area. So uh,
Mm.
it wouldn't be like Sinister has their own. I guess they could have something separate. That could be Sinister's possibly.
Mhm.
I don't want to say that's not going to happen, but typically, like the stage is like that's the main area. That's where the main
Yeah.
focus, the main character per se, would go. So maybe Sinister will utilize the stage um, some way as well. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. Maybe just walk around. Don't know.
I think she's gonna be more of like the executioner and for the king and queen's enjoyment.
Mm,
That's kind of just as someone, like I said on the live, who grew up going to Renfest and everything like that. That is like the whole point of like the joust is to entertain the nobles. So people are dying for that. I can just see her being the one like twisting the knife instead.
mm,
Mhm. So we have duality of fear, which has both of them. We have Torture Fair, which is now Sinister Zone, and what's the next one we're about to talk about?
I think it's a little spacey as well.
Ooh.
They say otherworldly, but it's still got that spacey look on the key art.
I can't with you guys. So the last zone that's been actually announced, is called Demon Queens, not with a Z. Whew, Hollywood, I'm looking at you.
Thank you.
I would have just become an otherworldly hellscape. And so get caught in an otherworldly hellscape ripped from the darkest corners of your mind. Four merciless queens loyal to surreal rule, surrounded by hordes of fanatical followers. Women. I love HHN 33 and I haven't even seen it yet.
Yeah, I'm digging this like three punch combo of zones right here. I
Mhm.
think this is a super fun concept. While we don't fully understand what's going to happen in Demon Queens yet, I can pretty safely say that is quite different than Torture Fair. So we should get a good balance and just very different things happening within zones that are all connected.
And with all these connections and, and stuff like that, it's not confirmed at all. And Horror Nights, like, it honestly takes them a while to even confirm this when it comes to like what is considered an icon or not. But I feel like this is giving very heavy hints that Sinister and Surreal are this year's icons.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Which, I mean,
Definitely.
how do we feel about that?
I I like it. I think it's a cool concept to go with a multiple icon approach. I think getting new icons is a great thing, even if sometimes maybe they won't pan out and work how you'd expect. Like I appreciate when they take those chances. So
Hmm.
Yeah. I think it's interesting and I think that there's a lot of stuff we don't know about them yet and there's a lot of room for maybe if they are mic'd characters in any of these zones, hopefully duality at least, that like they're building off this lore because the duality of it is really interesting to me and like the whole thing that we've talked about how Otis's eye kind of looks like a dual like embryo kind of a thing.
mhm.
That's really interesting because if they're cut from the same cloth, but one is, the real side of things and one's the parts of your mind, that is like a perfect horror event if you think
Hmm.
about it. So like if that's the basis we're going off of, there's so much more we could do with these two and how
Mhm.
they intertwine with the existing icons.
Yeah, this definitely feels like a concept that could be carried for years to come. That they could tie into all of HHN's lore and not. We've had a couple one-off style icons, and it feels like they could really fit into the larger picture.
I also really love that these icons, at least what the duality of fear zone is hinting at, is that they're really sort of right now, I'm thinking they're gonna want you to really choose one, like choose the one that most suits your tastes in horror, and I think that's really fun because I think people just love choosing things, picking a different path, like choose thy fate, where you got to pick, blue or red. Like that's just something that people are gonna enjoy, and so I think it could be really fun during the season of people being like, I'm on Team Surreal or I'm on Team Sinister. I think that'd be kind of fun. Or like, Torture Fair is more my style because it's more gory and it deals with the more physical horror, and then Demon Queens is a more psychological horror. I think that's a really cool concept, and for introducing what seemingly new icons that have no tie to the past, unlike Oddfellow, who did. I think this is a really cool way to just do completely new characters that aren't from lore.
Yeah, it's been a while since they haven't pulled like anything that wasn't from an HHN past, right? Like I guess it would be. Oh, hold on. Would it be Lady Luck? Is the last one, the last icon that was not pulled from a previous year?
I was gonna say, what are you considering an icon? Because if we open up this can of worms,
No, like I like
I'm
not
like
bone,
bone.
not
Yeah.
bone, like icon.
Well, yeah, it probably is Lady Luck then.
Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, Oddfellow for the most part was fully new, but still, like Oddfellow was pulled from further back. But yeah, really cool to see them actually just fully new concept, brand new,
Hmm.
nowhere from HHN until they like retcon something and suddenly they were. I don't know. We'll see. Wouldn't put it past them. But we did get another official announcement slash tease for a zone. Depending on what time of day you asked Universal, you'd get a different answer. But enter the Blumhouse. That's it. It didn't actually say zone or anything, but we do know it's a zone in Orlando at least. So, but yeah, they literally just said, "Hey, enter the Blumhouse. More to come."
Yeah, but
What
this
a
was after something happened.
Yes, it was also after. Let's to get into our construction update in Orlando. So yeah, what was this? Tuesday morning, Monday morning, Tuesday. I want
I
to
I
don't
say
think
know.
it was
Wednesday,
Tuesday or it was a
early
day of the week.
earlier in the week. As the park opened, as we do, there are people who get photos of what's going on, the new construction in the park, pretty early, and we saw photos in San Francisco of Blumhouse stages. Um, these were shortly after covered up by like just tarp, um, and then Universal later in the day just kind of announced enter the Blumhouse as nothing, as just enter the Blumhouse, and that they'd tell us more later. So obviously, we know exactly what that means. I think we would have known regardless, but like they kind of leaked it by putting out props, which is pretty crazy. Like that's an insane way to leak it.
They just keep leaking their own shit this year. I'm sorry, Universal. Like, be mad at yourself.
Like Blumhouse, I'm sure they are not happy. Like this is not the
No.
first like you said, this is not the first time we had literally the website leak on the merch website leak. We had them putting out the shirts too early. We had the team member website leak. We had like now this like they just keep leaking their stuff. It's all specific, mostly all specifically Blumhouse, and that's the funny part. It's all like one specific company they keep fucking over.
Hmm. Now, how much does Blumhouse know or care? I don't know. Does it make a difference to them that their prop was put out in a zone where it's gonna be? I don't. Who knows? But it's funny. It's kind of funny.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But of course, let's get deeper into this construction update then. Yeah, so we have on each side of San Francisco, like the entranceway, we're gonna have these Blumhouse stages, which is like just a stage that literally has the Blumhouse logo as the backdrop, and they're mirrored. So if you walk around it, same image on both sides. So kind of a split stage. Um, Other than that, they've added a bunch of lighting and speakers to the existing lighting rigs. I don't remember if we talked about it last time, but the cars have been removed from the exit of Fast and Furious as well, so
Mhm.
creating a little more space. That might also have a lot to do with the house location there, but we'll see. We'll see.
I was gonna say, are the cars always removed or no?
They have been and they haven't been.
Hmm. Okay.
So, yeah. So Swamp of the Undead has just had a few more props added at this point, basically like some boats, some more fencing, stuff like that. Smaller details. I guess the boat's pretty big, but uh, I think most of the larger structures are already there. We're seeing the main stuff, and it's going to be the smaller details coming now. Hollywood, nothing, because again, we don't really expect to see any large props out there because of the parade. So most of the stuff we're going to get in Hollywood is going to have to get wheeled out just before the event starts nightly. There's nothing up at the entrance zone currently. New York, however, we did mention that stage earlier for Torture Fair. Well, guess what? There's a stage where the stage always goes, and it looks a lot like what we saw in that concept art. So Torture Fair is definitely in New York. Just pointing that out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
they've also got more lighting up on the roofs, and yeah, I think that's about it for the zones. However, at Battery Park, we did mention how there's kind of like lighting rigs that have gone up there, but they've also now added like the monitor covers, like so when they put a TV outdoors and they put that like big kind of cover around it that it would go inside, those are now out there. So whether it's going to be like a TV, just like menus, something along those lines, they're now large structures for those out there with more lighting rigs, lighting, speakers, more tables now too. So something
Hmm.
interesting is going to happen in Battery Park, it would seem. Something beyond the typical just bar area we have there.
Okay.
And I think that basically is it. That's everything that's happened in the past week or so in the parks construction wise. And I would expect this week we're probably going to get a lot more, and every other week moving forward.
Yeah, now that all like every scare zone, I guess Blumhouse is kind of announced, kind of not, whatever. But almost every scare zone is announced like now on the website. They are going to be way more free in what they decide to throw up, and put it in the parks. They don't really have to
Oh
worry
yeah.
about holding anything back anymore.
Hmm.
Absolutely. And you know what, Duff, you know why we are going to see a lot more construction and we didn't acknowledge it? When this episode released, we're 1 month till opening night.
Oh yeah.
So,
Oh yeah, forgot that's a fun little thing. Yeah,
yeah.
so if you're listening to this the day it releases, happy 1 month till HHN. 1 month till HHN, and we're in July. Feels good.
Fog, fog,
Feels
fog,
good. We're
fog.
almost there. We're 1 day away. Personally,
It's barely a day.
barely. We got a few hours, and I'll celebrate.
Well, okay, in 1 month and 24 hours, we will
Oh,
be knee deep in the fog.
yeah, that's true. That
That
sounds
is a
better.
fun fact.
Yeah, hell yeah. Let's roll with that. But yeah, so let's move on to something that we get annually at this point. Does anyone want to take over this fun segment?
I mean, there's
Sure.
a lot to cover.
We can
Does
go back
anyone
and
want to
forth.
kick
Okay.
off this segment? Is a better way to
Oh,
put it.
oh my gosh. Do you want I'll talk about him. I'll talk about the baby. Well, not the person that I guess I should intro with the person who posted all of this, but there was a UK, I believe it's a travel agent panel. We get this every year. And we always get some really fun details, but they gave us a lot this year. So all of the credit for really the person who posted all of this on Twitter that we saw was at Darren_Scott on Twitter. The first thing we saw was what we're believing is the event artwork and the tagline for this year. So it's Otis. And the tagline is Where Horror Lives. So no more Never Go Alone. I hope.
Dance on your grave.
I'll dance on his fucking grave. Me and Otis do a little jig.
Can he jig? Can he do that?
Do you see those legs? He was made for ballet.
Are those legs? What are
I'm
they?
assuming. I
It,
don't
it
know.
looks like his spine just has an amazing shape.
I imagine he walks like the the spider baby head from Toy Story.
Oh,
Yeah,
ooh. I don't know if I like Otis much now. That's kind of disturbing.
you're a fake fan. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I can be. Ooh. Anyways, I'm happy about the "Where Horror Lives" tagline overtaking uh, redacted. It's redacted now.
Ooh, okay. Derogatory.
Exactly. We also got a bunch of concept art and images and just fun details about zones and houses and a lot of other cool stuff. So if you don't want to hear that, it's not that bad, I promise. But
No.
skip ahead like 15 minutes and we'll be done. So let's start out with what we got for Slaughter Cinema 2. Um, So, along with showing us more of Heavy Metal Hell 3D, which is one of actually the only one we knew an exact name of prior to now, we got Mardi Gras Murders with the tagline "Party Till You Drop." It was revealed that it will feature music from Universal Orlando's Mardi Gras celebration. And also at the bottom, it mentions experience it in Horror Vision 3D.
I'd rather not.
Yeah, I know. Same. So we'll talk about the 3D thing a little bit after this. But also a mask was a part of this, and it's a very like B horror over the top, like very Mardi Gras aesthetic mask. It's got that what is like a jester hat. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it's like that's a full blown like jester.
Yeah, yeah. So
Big
obviously
mouth.
super like cartoonish version of that, very over the top. Looks very good, and what I'd expect out of Slaughter Cinema though for sure.
Hmm.
Definitely.
What do you guys think about kind of the aesthetic of Mardi Gras Murders and just generally like how that fits as a B horror film?
Oh, it's perfect. I mean, to me, I think of like zombie gras and stuff like that immediately,
Hmm.
and how much I wanted to experience that. So this is gonna be my little bit of zombie gras. I'm hoping. But I'm hyped, and they also said that they filmed the trailer for this during Mardi Gras this year.
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
That's really cool.
That is so exciting.
God, that trailer is gonna be so good. I mean, in terms of this movie, this was not something I was expecting. Like it's just something that wasn't on my radar. I wasn't thinking that they were gonna go, sort of this route with some of the movies, which we'll have a little bit later to talk about that. Um, but I really like it. I think it's a really good fit. The art gives me a lot of hope, and I mean that mask alone sells me on this concept because I think it's going to be a very, very creepy but also really fun segment of the house.
Hmm. Now, we got a few other details outside of Mardi Gras murders as well. That there will be a Christmas film scene, which sounds like it could be a lot of fun, to be honest. And how they will definitely be looking for whatever film guests seem to like the most, and maybe get its own Swamp Yeti treatment, if you will. So let's see which one that is, if any. I mean, it's no guarantee, but it is exciting to kind of go into a house like, which one of you are going to pop up again, huh? Huh?
Imagine they put a Yeti movie back in the house, and the guests are like, "We love the Yeti movie the best."
No
I
more
mean, listen,
Yetis.
would you be surprised?
No.
No. There's
Yeah.
gonna be one in there. It'll probably be in like the Christmas one. It'll be like I don't like an abominable snowman, like an actual
Oh
big Yeti.
yeah,
Mm,
I
that
don't
makes
know.
sense.
I could see that.
I'm calling it now.
Well, anyways, that's all we really got for Slaughter Cinema 2. So let's go back to kind of a key element of what we saw here, which I think caught everyone's eye
Hmm.
and makes us wonder. That's going back to Mardi Gras Murders showing Experience It in Horror Vision 3D. Of course, Metal Hell 3D is 3D. This one, while not a 3D named film, mentions that it can be viewed in 3D. Uh, do we think that we will get a fully 3D house? And if not actually 3D, if we'll get it with the chroma paint.
Those are two different questions. So I I think if this was a house that was literally gonna be you're gonna get glasses, right? And you're gonna walk through it with the glasses and it was gonna be a whole thing, I would hope that they would have just put that, like, on the title, like, Slaughter Cinema 2 3D, which would honestly fit, like, a lot for this property, this type of house, or put it in the description, which is now on the website and still doesn't say anything about 3D. So, at least in that regard, I don't think they're gonna go the glasses route because I feel like they wouldn't even need to warn people. They would just want to do that as a marketing tactic because I think most guests, unlike people, who have experienced 3D and didn't love it in the past or, or whatever, um, most guests see 3D and go, "Oh, that's fun. That's a cool little gimmick. I want to do the gimmick." That's probably a way to entice people, more average guests to want to check out the house. So why would they leave that out if it was 3D? That's the whole point of having 3D, to have like a fun gimmick to get people inside. So I don't know if they'll go the glasses route. I am worried that they might do the, like what you were saying, the chroma depth the whole time. That is something I am kind of really worried about, and I hope they don't go that direction.
But why do it if they're not gonna have us use the glasses? Because the whole point of chroma depth is the glasses.
I don't know, but they would have, like, would there be a reason, or like would there be a logical reason why they wouldn't put
Um,
3D on the title if it was 3D?
no,
No.
there's not a logical reason they do that. A logical reason they would put the chroma depth without actual 3D, though, would be because you're not just recycling all these glasses a day.
No, I
It's
hear
much
that.
more environmentally friendly, and maybe they just don't want to go full 3D as well.
But
Um,
why, like, go the extra effort to split the color, like, wheel apart? Because that's how you have to do this
mhm,
effect for it not to be effective. Like, I'm not saying I want the glasses, I'm just saying, why, as HHN, spend the money or not spend the money, I don't know how that works, to do this certain way of doing a house if the effect is not going to be used?
mhm.
That just makes no sense to me, is what I'm saying. Like, just make it shitty day glow at that point.
As someone who doesn't want the house to be either of these,
Right.
I will say it might still give that illusion of cheesy B horror 3D,
Mhm.
as like a almost poor quality and not full 3D experience. You know what I mean?
I'm okay with that.
So I think it can fit, right? If I had to guess, I think I would still say we might get multiple films that are like that, but I don't think it's the whole house.
No, I don't think so either. And what if okay, you just saying that. What if it's more the gags in shitty 3D horror? Like we're thinking a 3D house, but we're not thinking like, oh, just like shit kind of jumping out at us.
Mm.
Like really shitty hands and stuff
And
popping out.
that's a good point because a lot of like, especially older like horror films that started to introduce 3D, really the 3D was only for single jump scares like at a
Yeah.
time. So it wasn't like everything was in 3D. You were basically watching the movie in normal and then suddenly, oh, this jump scare came at you. So it could just be
Mhm.
presented more like that.
I'm okay with that.
Suddenly, the Freddy tells you to put on your 3D glasses, and the movie becomes 3D for the last third.
I will say the only concern with that is if you look at the key art, or I guess the poster for Mardi Gras Murders, there does seem to be like chroma depth in that poster.
Mm.
Does
I'm
that
a
mean it's
little
going to happen
worried.
anywhere else than those two? No, it doesn't mean that. But a more reason to believe we'll get it in at least multiple rooms.
All right. I mean, I trust them. I mean, they know this is a fan favorite house. They announced this at the spooky panel for a reason.
Yeah.
This is the one that fans are the going to be the most excited for generally. So I mean, I trust them. They know that this is one they can't mess up because it's important to a lot of
Hmm.
people. So I have hope that if they end up doing at least a little bit of the house that way, that like it ends up working and they know what they're doing. Especially because it's been a while since they even did the 3D tricks or
Yeah.
anything like that. So maybe like they go even in a completely different direction with it. I don't know. I'm still have faith right now because I don't think they'd pull that card if they didn't trust in what they were doing or didn't
Now,
believe in what they were doing.
Yeah.
with that said, who would put this lower on their hype list than they would now if you found out it was 3D? Say I.
I
I
Aye. Yeah. So, uh, I would hope for the best and be dreading the worst.
Yeah.
But who wants to take us on to the next property we learned about?
I do. I want to
Oh,
take
oh
this
of
one.
course you do.
Shocking.
Major Sweets Candy Factory. We only got like around 3 pictures, but they're all really interesting. One we have now, like sort of just art of Taffy and what he's gonna look like in the house. If you guys don't know, Taffy was an important part of the podcast that just came out. Sort of like a person who works for Mister Sweets or Major Sweets. He's like almost the muscle. Super big, like his face little is deformed and stuff like that. Got had a little accidents in the factory, had some factory accidents. But he's a great character. If you listen to that podcast, you're gonna fall in love with Taffy.
Mhm.
And so we got the image of Taffy, and he's wearing like a sort of a suit, and you sort of see his face with some hair. And then we got the mask for Taffy. And how are we feeling about that? Because I think it looks really cool.
Yeah, I to be honest, for me, it's exactly what I was picturing in the podcast. So kudos to the podcast for portraying exactly what you guys were putting out because that's spot on. But yeah, I do think it looks great as well. It's very much got kind of like that. I'm the brute force. I'm the muscle, while being very silly and having candy implanted within him. And it's goofy. It's fun. It's major sweets.
Yeah. I can't wait to see how large this scare actor is with all of this on. That's
Hmm.
a big boy.
Hmm. And then, because if you look, 'cause we see the mask, but if you see like there's concept art next to it, he looks very much like oh no, what's his name? From Spider-Man, the villain.
There's
This
lots
is
of villains in
you.
Spider-Man.
This is all you.
Why can I not think of him?
Which one?
There's so many.
I don't know. He got like a his head that looks big is actually small on his big ass body. He looks fucking huge. That's where I'm going with that.
Okay.
Okay.
Right on.
But besides
I killed the
Taffy,
vibe. Oh no.
I think you did. Poor Taffy.
poor Taffy,
You
it's okay.
murdered him, Duff.
He won't be. Why is it in the house? Just don't worry about it. Duff
I
got him.
killed him.
Um, but besides just Taffy, we also got something that is very interesting if you know the Fast and Furious location, and that is a facade. We have the factory facade. It's just the entrance to the factory. It has suites, like in letters on the top, and it's just like a what you would expect the factory entrance to look like. Not super big or like not as like not like super wide, but it's tall. It looks like. Um, but I mean, the most interesting part here is that it's a facade in Fast and Furious, and we know it's Fast and Furious because Universal put the code names on their websites. That is confirmed. That is not even a question anymore. So where do we think the facade's gonna go? Because that location, if has not had a facade before in the beginning of the house.
So my only thought about that, Jonathan, is that I know we've talked about that the tent has been turned slightly,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
I have no thoughts beyond that. So we don't know where the fuck the entrance or the exit is now if it's been turned.
Yeah.
I will say the one thing I think this probably means, if the facade actually is as big as it looks in this concept art, is that we will be entering the house outside and not starting in the queue, which we've talked about many times. They never started work inside the queue, and it's not closing for another couple weeks, and that's not enough time to work on a
No.
house from there.
Sure.
So I think it's literally just gonna. We might switch. I don't know. I don't want to commit to that. We might switch which like tent we enter, but I think whichever one it is, wherever we enter, just plastered in front of the tent, that's going to be the facade.
Would that mean that the house would? I'm trying to. I don't know how they're gonna lay it out because, like we said, this whole year is like really weird with Fast and
Yeah.
Furious. Is there a world where the house is just the tents?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that world.
I
We
don't
don't know
know.
that world.
I think the thing is, it always felt. I don't want to say it felt too long, but it always felt a bit longer than most houses the way it was laid out previously. So if they cut a little bit of that off, it wouldn't be the end of the world.
Good point.
As long as they can use the space better in the tents. I mean, the thing is, it's hard though because it's a factory. Like you don't want everything to be tight. And
No.
but for those
Well,
tents,
with the
like if
tents they put it in, I don't think you have a choice.
that's
Like
another concern.
like
Like
the interior queue, like it didn't really add much more space for that anyways. It's not like they had much to work with, so putting it in
But
this location, even if they laid it out like they did last year, they still weren't going to get much scale or size or space out of this.
but
stupid
you
location.
guys keep thinking that this is like a huge ginormous factory. Even the facade is not giving me like 20-story factory.
But the art
No, but
did.
It's a moderately sized
it is like a
factory.
5-story factory
Yeah,
or
but
something.
that doesn't need to give us huge grand scale unless he's got like a Willy Wonka room with a
Well,
chocolate river.
I don't think it's going to, so we don't have to
Right.
worry about that.
He might have to utilize his space. He might have to have every nook and cranny like shoved with
Yeah.
crates of candy.
I will
We don't
say,
know.
as a factory, I think there is going to have to be one scene that is more open.
Yes.
I don't know how they execute that in that location. They've surprised me before. Don't get me wrong; it could very well happen. But I think you have to have at least a scene where you get to like that, like this is where the work really happens,
Mhm.
because they
Yeah.
have like the chimneys so I imagine there's large machines that lead all the way up in
Mm.
this open space. There has to be, right, somewhere in that factory. Maybe we don't
Descendants
see
of
them.
Destruction.
Maybe we don't see them. But that's such a different tent.
But
Such a
like
different tent.
I don't know,
You could use
mirrors
a
did
similar
wonders.
effect for sure,
Yeah, that's what I meant.
but
The
those
effect.
tents are so much smaller.
You slice the factory in half, you put a mirror there, and then suddenly it looks like a whole factory. We've all seen the effect.
You walk and he's like, "Well, yeah, I sliced my factory in half."
Savings.
Inflation's gone up.
we're we're all thinking to be honest, all they have to do, I mean Chucky Ultimate Kill Count obviously perfected this. Just put wallpaper on the and it acts like the factory's huge. The wallpaper is so effective. No one can tell the difference.
That house was so effective.
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
Let's
Uh,
let's please. Can we move on from sweets?
yes, let's
Can
move
can
on.
I point out one thing about that location real quick? Just real
Mhm.
quick. The most effective thing they've ever done in that house was Black Phone. Black Phone was the only one that made sense to be fully claustrophobic. Just saying.
Hmm.
That's
Just
true.
pointing that out.
Yeah. Well, moving on to something maybe more positive. We got some information for the museum deadly exhibits. It's been well, excuse me. I lost my train of thought. We know this is now the Museum of International Folklore. And there was some Latin on a poster that they showed us, and it roughly translates to this exhibition was donated by the researchers of the 32 building and brought to you by the excellent artists who make the museum so much fun.
Thank you, artists.
Oh, thank you. Much appreciated.
They make it so much fun.
32, right?
You think they put 33 there, you know?
Maybe it's like an HHN 32
Yeah, it could
callback.
be. Could
I
be.
don't know.
Because it was donated by, so, left by someone who'd already, so maybe, yeah. Anyways,
Mm.
to what we actually saw, this is actually stuff we've seen. We just kind of got a better look at it now. Um, First, the coming soon poster. We can literally see that on the facade on the sprung tent right now. Um, and then also a much clearer look at the rotting stone than what we saw in the key art. And it looks gross. It looks moist and
Ugh.
like it's rotting, that's for sure.
I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. It looks like it smells.
It looks like it smells terrible.
I don't like that.
Ugh.
Mm-mm. I like international folklore though, because that means everywhere.
Yeah, which I think is what we were picturing.
Yeah,
So it's kind of nice to get that as like a confirmation. I feel like if they're saying international folklore, that's like, yeah, we're going all over, of course.
we're gonna see some cool shit.
Yeah,
I do like that.
but otherwise, yeah, we didn't really get too much from this slide. So in that case, let's move on to Monstros, the monsters of Latin America, where you remember when we kind of panned the key art we got for this because it was basically just the text and the colors didn't look as good. Just the way it was laid out, it was just not as good as the Hollywood key art last year. Well, we got new key art and it looks really fucking good. So thank you for giving that to us. I don't know why we had to wait. I don't know why it's not currently what represents this house on the website, but I'm happy I've seen it. But on this key art, we actually got a few kind of differences than we would have had in Hollywood's last year. One, La Muerte is front and center, is the focal point, is the main character, according to this key art. Which, if you listen to the podcast, makes a ton of sense and is what differentiates it from the Hollywood version. Uh, Tlahuelpuchi also got completely new art, looks like a completely different character, and which really kind of differentiate again from La Lechuza, which was
Mm-hmm.
kind of our only real gripe with Monstros in Hollywood last year, is they too similar, too samey. Uh, I think there's a very clear difference now, and hopefully that plays into not just the character design, but their rooms as well. It also has this like beautiful, intricate, colorful design border. It's just really good. If you haven't seen it yet, go check it out. Again, Darren_Scott on Twitter. You can also find us quote tweeting it on our Twitter as well. But it looks beautiful and it's a huge improvement from what we were given when it was actually released.
Yeah.
I love it. And it gives, I mean, it gives a lot of interesting details. Like you said, Talapucci might have a completely different look in the house and, be different and fix that problem. But also, the colorful border and the, intricate border is the thing that excites me the most because it lines up to what the podcast was talking about and how in the podcast in their Monstro story, it takes place in one location and it's had people are having like a Halloween festival, but it's not even just celebrating Halloween. A lot of people there are celebrating the Monstros themselves and dressing up as them, and it's like a whole festival and stuff like that. And the border specifically sort of gives me those vibes that we might be experiencing something similar to Fiesta de Chupacabra. Not exactly, but in terms of like it is sort of a party atmosphere that goes wrong, or maybe it's
Hmm.
party in the beginning, then we head to the woods and it gets a little darker. But I feel like that alone is, if we go that route, completely different approach to how Hollywood did theirs.
Yeah, it definitely does feel like story wise, the vibe of the key art gives a completely different story and kind of vibe than what we had in Hollywood, which I think is very important because we wouldn't want to see the same exact shit again, right? So
Oh, exactly.
I'm
No.
very happy if this does go a different direction, and it looks like it will.
Yeah. I'm really excited about Talawapuchi because she's a vampire, but in Hollywood she looked like a bird.
Hmm.
And that was just so confusing, like you both said. So I'm excited to see her, and I hope that she is like the scariest part of this house because this new design is crazy.
Yeah, it's like an unnerving scary, you know? Like it's not just like, oh, that's a scary design. It's like, oh, that's creepy. I don't know if I like that. But that is not all we got. We did get concept art that is new for La Lechuza, and it looks quite different as well. Much more. It's not completely changing the scenario uh, or the design for La Lechuza, uh, but it's much more akin to like what you see in the typical depiction of La Lechuza. So even further differentiating its look from Tlahuelpuchi, which is nice.
Orlando heard our like only complaints about the one in Hollywood and said, "All right, we got you. We got you." All right, for our next house they talked about, we got some more details on Goblins Feast, and it was pretty simple. We just got three masks shown. There was like a goblin on the left with like some silly eyes, like a really cool design. There was another goblin in the middle, if I'm correct, and then on the last one, I think was an orc. I think it
Orc,
wasn't a goblin. It didn't look
yeah,
like a
I think
goblin.
orc. I did think someone did say hobgoblin.
We never learned the difference between okay, no, that's not true. On the live, one of our listeners was telling me that that was a hobgoblin or an orc. We won't know until we see it in person because it depends on the height.
Hmm.
That's true.
I'm educated now on goblins, guys.
There we go.
Thanks to our listener. I don't know. I don't remember who they were. I'm so sorry.
But we didn't just get the masks, which I'm sure we'll talk about how that makes us feel. But we also got a podcast, which we didn't talk about earlier this week. That was a story about Goblins Feast and sort of gave us a more um, better idea of the tone they're going for with this house and the sort of the locations we might see and the different environments and stuff like that. And who wants to like give like a very, very, very quick like summary of like sort of those general things that like we now know about goblins?
Um, I guess I can. So, of course, as most podcasts that they do, this doesn't seem like it's going to be directly what we experience. But like you said, Jonathan, it's kind of going to give us that vibe. It's a very upbeat, like almost like a fairy tale, like happy-go-lucky fairy tale that has a little strife in the middle, but nothing super serious. Um, but it basically is about a child who's very excited for the Goblins Feast, which is akin to like their Thanksgiving or Christmas slash an Independence Day, 'cause it kind of is that for them. So it's a huge holiday. It means a lot. It's a bunch of traditions involved. And she's just very excited for the day. Just bringing it to the end, basically, though. Again, very happy-go-lucky. The way they treat the approach for this is so fun and joyful and comedic, as you know what's going to happen. And it basically ends up with this child goblin, for the first time ever, having the honor of leading or kicking off the feast by bashing a human over the head. This human's already cooked, but cracking its skull so they may now feast.
That was a fun ending. I love this
Yeah,
podcast.
it was so different, but I think it was my favorite of the year. Just the story, it
Mhm.
was just so fun, and the way they approached it, and the voice acting was great. Um, yeah, it was so much fun, and again, we aren't going to see that exact story, I'm sure, but if that's the tone of the house, I'm ready.
It really gave me like I was, there I was excited for this house, but on the idea that it would go a little goofy, a little silly, a little more fantastical stuff like that. But there was a chance that it went just full on serious and gory or whatever. But I'm happy it's going the way I want it to be. It's more silly. These are types of houses that I end up liking more or just vibing with more. So I mean, this raises this house on my hype list for sure, just because of that fact.
Mhm.
Okay, was I crazy or in the podcast was there not the line from Wicked Growth? Like the witch is the witch from Wicked Growth.
Was there?
The get back in there ingredient.
Oh,
Wasn't
yes,
that?
but,
It
yes,
got cut off.
I thought it was, but it said something else.
Yeah,
Like,
but it was
very
like the
very
same voice.
similar line, very similar
Mhm.
delivery, voice,
Okay.
but it said something else. Because after they said that, I was like, "Get back in there, ingredient."
Mhm.
Oh, I don't remember what it was, but, yeah, it was like a line delivery that was exactly the same.
Yeah. I don't know. This is not something that's gonna be very high on my hype, but I'm expecting it to rise during the season. But the masks that we got from the panel and the podcast, they were fun. I think Sweets is my favorite though for the season.
Okay, that's fair. That also a fun one. I think, to be fair, this year we've had just good ones. I've
Mhm.
enjoyed them all.
That
Mhm.
quiet place.
Well, that's different. That's not that
It's a social
storytelling.
experiment.
We'll see how it goes.
Mm.
uh,
Hopefully, it will work. Um,
but yeah, as you're mentioning, where this kind of ties in with what we saw in the podcast, like if you look at that goblin on the left, it fits that vibe from the podcast so perfectly. It's just
Mm.
like the goofiest little goblin you could imagine,
Kinda
mhm.
looks like Dobby.
I love him. So
but
cool.
goofier.
Mhm. They're kinda gross too. The one in the middle is my favorite. He's got like some gunk all over him.
Hmm. But also goofy. And then you have what
Mm.
is the orc, or maybe not an orc, on the right, which is a much more like a serious kind of approach, which I guess makes sense.
That's what the podcast implied. You have the goblins that are like, "Doo, doo, 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 doo." Then you have the orcs that are just do the job, and that's it.
Hmm.
That they're very serious. They just want to get the job done.
Jonathan, are you a goblin going "Doo, doo, doo, doo," like it just fits so well.
I guess.
I can imagine Jonathan running around the goblin village.
Just doing little skips the whole way.
You like honestly, you're giving me the same vibe as the like young, spry, wide-eyed goblin in the podcast. Almost like a goblin ingenue.
because
Thanks,
because
I
Jonathan's the
guess.
It's a compliment.
Okay.
spry, wide-eyed member of 365.
Yeah,
We're
and
all
That
old
is
and have
true.
seen shit.
oh, we know we're the orcs and the
Jonathan's
hobgoblins.
pure.
Yeah. This is fully like a compliment, Jonathan. None of this is like meant to be
No, yeah, no,
anything.
yeah, I'm just more, yeah. I totally understand what you're saying. We're gonna get into that once we get to the Texas part, where you guys are gonna be like, we saw Texas a billion times, and I'm just like,
We're smoking a
Leatherface.
pack of menthols and Jonathan's like, "Wow." I didn't even see it that much, and I'm still smoking the pack of menthols like, "Shut up."
You're really gonna be talking about like that young goblin when we get to Texas, like, oh, Texas Chainsaw Day, my
Like,
favorite
Oh
day of the
god.
year.
that's how I woke up that morning. I write in the group chat. I'm just
Yeah,
like, it's Texas Chainsaw Day, everyone, get ready.
he did. This is real. This
And it
actually happened,
was, it
and it
was Texas.
was.
I almost left the group chat that day.
Uh,
So are we ready to move on to the next thing?
yeah, let's do it.
Torture Fair, which, I mean, to be fair, we kind of already talked a lot about this before. But basically, like Duff has already said, we've already said, it gave us concept art of the stage, which is now we can see like in New York for real. But we have a stage with two thrones that the king and queen, which we also saw art of, can sit at, and those are seems like those are their thrones. And something else interesting about this art is we already know now, but there were, around it, you could tell it was New York. Like it was very obvious where it was, and the location is where that stage always is. And we also got another like piece of character art on the left of, I don't know what their role is, but it's someone in like a black
Looks like
robe
a
that's like
priest.
yeah, and it's like sleeveless, and
Mm.
there's like veins and cuts and stuff all over their arms, and it almost gives me like a Hellraiser type vibe. And it looks, I think we all agree, it looks absolutely amazing.
Mhm.
Yes, yes. I mean, all the costume work we see in this concept looks phenomenal.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I'm very excited. I will say I interpreted the arms as being like what's on Sinister's face in the key art,
Oh, I
not
didn't
as
think
like
about that.
cuts. Now that we know that it's her zone.
Hmm.
Like, you know how she has like the red swirls? I
Yeah.
was interpreting it like he's like, I don't know, one of her minions. I don't know, but that's just from the key art.
Right. That'd be a cool interpretation. I like that.
I'm also excited to see because a big part of like picking your outfit for Renfest, if you're doing it like the Renfest way, is all about the color, and like certain colors are only for royals and certain colors only for like the the ladies in waiting and the executioners and certain things. And like, I wonder if we're gonna get that. Like
Mm,
kind of like a Vikings Undead level of detail.
that would be cool. It would make sense, I guess. So we can hope. But listen, from what we saw here, I have no doubts they're gonna absolutely knock every character out of the park that they put into this zone.
Yeah.
I think I think I said this on the live as well, but this is probably the most anticipated zone for me in years.
Mm-hmm.
Years. So don't let
Oh
me down. That's all I'm saying.
my god, what high expectations.
Barry.
I know.
But anything else on Torture Fair?
No, but we are missing a zone on here that did have concept art, I'm seeing.
Oh.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, Demon Queens did have concept art.
Oh, yes, I was
The
supposed to put
five.
it with the yeah, here, we'll add
That's
it
okay.
here.
Well, we're gonna talk about it now because I already mentioned it.
Okay, cool.
So for Demon Queens, we got concept art of the five queens. So one of them being Surreal in the center, and then the four others, which none of us I think could tell you anything about the other ones. They're all very specifically like color coded.
hmm
I guess there's like an orange one, a yellow one, a blue one.
HHN
Um,
Power Rangers.
I guess, yeah. But also we see, I guess, what we're gonna call their float, their stage, whatever they're gonna wheel out every night.
hmm
One of them at least. But those costumes look insane to me, and I don't know how that plays into any of this with duality or surreal or anything.
Yeah, the costumes look like they're very intricate and
Hmm.
like have many pieces to them. So if they're actually gonna walk around like that every night, A, that's gonna be a lot of work. Just getting into and setting up, and B, either gonna be potentially a lot for the scare actress to deal with having to walk around, or if they try to scale it back and make kind of like just a couple pieces look like that, not really look the way they should.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, so like this looks like a 8-piece outfit, and they're like, yeah, well, it's three in this one.
Mm. The thing, at least based off the key art, if you guys haven't seen it, to me it reads almost like a vanity ball and like Seven had a baby.
Hmm.
And that's exciting to me. So this will probably be higher just for me. But I can see how like this is high concept and a lot of people are gonna be very worried until they see it.
I'm just happy that they're colorful. Like, that was a big problem with I know, I'm just
Young
like
spryly goblin just running through the forest.
exactly, exactly, but, like, we were talking I don't think we discussed it on this particular podcast, but we discussed it on the live and just, between ourselves as well, is that the key art looked a lot like Zodiac, and we were
Mhm.
like, we don't know how to feel about this zone yet." But this art completely got rid of a lot of that fear for me because the costumes, A, are, super, really cool, but also they're all colorful. They're all bright. They all, like, are vibrant, and unlike Dark Zodiac that was, dark, gray, just very dark colors where without a lot of lighting, they didn't pop as much. These costumes seems like they are going to pop, and that is something that I am excited for because I do like color in zones. So I especially compared to sort of the dark, dark color tones. So I think that's a cool thing that this concept art shows us.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I think looking at that concept art for that like stage that comes out definitely looks like a centerpiece that a queen or all queens would be on. And I'm really hoping that means there will be a separate one for each queen rather than this just kind of being the one big centerpiece. 'Cause I think it seems they will all have their own kind of followers. So kind of separating it out with their own grand stage would be a really fun way to do that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm just so curious as to the deepest, darkest corners of our minds and like, do they each represent one? And Surreal's like the center of it? Like what?
Hmm.
I'm so excited. That's why it feels like Vanity Ball to me because the Vanity Ball description gave me nothing besides surgery. And then walking in it was like LGBTQ everywhere. And that was really fun. So this is kind of like that same excitement for me.
Yeah, it's one that like, okay, we know who's going to be there. What the
Yeah.
fuck? Why? They follow Surreal. Great. Why? What are they? What's their purpose? At all? We don't know. We got none of that. So I am very excited. I think it's probably the most mysterious of the zones we're getting in Orlando for sure. But with that, I think we can move on to our final bit of info from this UK panel we'll cover, which is going to be for Swamp of the Undead, which of course we can physically see plenty of in the parks right now, but we do get concept art of that as well. So you get to see the more fleshed out version of what we're already looking at. Of course, much more like moss hanging from the trees and just much more full, if you will. I think the big notable part of that concept art though is that what we've been discussing about creating the effect of like the low level water, there is like almost like lighting effect looking water in this concept art, like
Mhm.
along the legs of the docks. So I would say that's almost definitely happening.
That's exciting. I mean, that's the thing I'm probably most looking forward to with this zone, or most hype, most hoping for. And I think if they can pull it off and it works, that could be something that really differentiates the zones from a lot of Central Park zones and just zones in general in the past. It's a really cool element that I'm happy Horror Nights is trying. I just think it can really immerse you into the environment more so than just props could, because it's like actually something physically that's affecting you that you're sort of walking in, which is really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
I'm
And
terrified.
one thing I didn't mention in the construction updates is that with the additional lighting that's popping up, of course, a lot of that is that low level lighting. Well, a lot of that low level lighting that's kind of at like knee hip level, I'd say. Um, they've now put like the fake fencing that you've seen around. A lot of that's going in front of that lighting, or they're going behind those fencings. So it's
Mm.
kind of like shine through the cracks of that as well. So that should create a really fun effect as well as just generally having the lighting at that level.
I'm I'm very excited to see it. I'm very worried for how that's going to work with how crowded that
Oh,
zone
it's gonna
gets.
be tough to execute. One, like to actually get it to execute in general and work across an open space like that. Like we typically see something like that would happen in a house, a completely controlled setting. You're outside. This is a little bit different,
Yeah. Gotta catch
especially
this on a rainy night though.
yeah, really like humid. The fog can do different things, and
Mm.
oh man, yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how consistent they can get it to work, and really how much they're going to commit to it in general. It could just be a very light effect and not as heavy as maybe we're anticipating.
Mm.
I'm hoping they go all in for what it's worth, but it will be tough to execute and consistently pull it off because the weather's going to be an issue. People are going to be an issue. It gets so crowded in there. Kids walking through there, whether you think they should be there or not, kids will be walking through there. Is it going to be in their face? Are they going to disappear under the water? Don't know.
They're
We'll see.
gone. Just they walk in the zone. Bye bye.
Oh, bye, Johnny. You're undead now.
Bum,
Uh,
bum.
Also, we got zombie mask previews. There are two of them, and I really like the route they took this. This is not just like typical zombie masks. It really lives up to what the story is, and they're definitely like bodies that spent some time in the water. They've been decomposing. They got some algae on them, even, and now they are zombies. So they are particularly disgusting versions of zombies.
They look great. I mean, they look absolutely phenomenal. I think we were all kind of a little worried when the concept just said zombies, and we're like, "Oh, we've seen zombies a lot. We'll see how it goes." But these mats are giving me hope that they're going to pull it off right, because they look absolutely phenomenal, and they do not look like your generic zombie. They definitely have some character to them that can really give this zone a lot of life. Um, which is funny because zombies are dead. But yeah.
Yeah, but I think this is a zone that there's no reason it shouldn't at least work. I think one of the higher floor zones for sure. I don't know if I'll be as excited as other zones, but I think at the end of the day, this is a zone we're going to enjoy, and it'll be nice because a lot of times recently Central Park has been a bit underwhelming. So hopefully we can get back to the Central Park glory days with this zone.
As long as I can see, that's all I want. I just want to be able to walk through the zone
No,
and see
Jonathan.
things.
No, you missed trick or treat. The beauty of trick or treat is that you could see and then you couldn't see.
Hmm.
And it
But
would like come in waves.
nothing will be like last year where you literally couldn't
No.
see for
That's what I'm
like
talking about.
I'm
Yeah.
walking for 10 feet. I still can't see. Am I gonna
I
walk in it? Yes, I'm gonna walk in it. It happened multiple times. We collided
There
because
were
nobody
multiple
could see.
nights just where I feel like we were trying to get just videos of the zones, and I would go to film something and Duff would go, and 10 seconds later I'm like, "Duff? Duff?" And then the smoke clears and he's right next to me. But we were alone in the fog.
Yep.
It was so bad.
Yep. They should also get rid of that for safety reasons because I did actually. I think I talked about it on the podcast, but there was like an actual like pretty severe collision that happened
Mhm.
that someone needed like legit medical attention for. So that was very dangerous levels of very high level fog. Bring it down to the low level with the water, and we should be good. But anyways, that's pretty much all we're going to go over for the UK panel. Outside of I think a couple other random things we'll talk about as we get to them. But I feel like Jess, you should probably take this next announcement.
Oh, me? I can't imagine why.
You didn't ask or anything either.
No, I didn't call dibs on this one. So if you guys were living under a rock, what day did this come Thursday?
I think it
The
did.
Mm,
house?
yes, it was Thursday.
Okay. So on Thursday, we got our bi-coastal IP announcement, our last house in Orlando, Universal Monsters Eternal Bloodlines. And our description for that is get caught in an epic battle for dominance as Saskia Van Helsing and the Bride of Frankenstein go up against Dracula's daughter and her monstrous mavens She-Wolf and Oxunamon. I love women. I don't know about you guys, but HHN 33 is really for the girls, gays, and theys. I mean, anyone can go, but we won this fucking year. I'm sorry.
Well, at least I can go. But I also I seed this for you, and I'm also very excited for this because it fucking sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Oh, I know we're all excited, and I don't want to take away from that, but like just the amount of people I've seen online that are like, I am represented in this, and I know we had it in Bride, but this is different. Like
Hmm.
everyone has someone to cheer for in this house, and that is so important.
And
But
it is very different from Bride
yeah,
in a couple senses too, which I think we'll get to here. But very like important aspects I think are I didn't expect them to do. I feel like I've been saying that a lot about Orlando recently, and they've been pulling out all the stops, and I'm very happy they're doing it.
yeah, I mean, let's just get into that. So for Orlando specifically, they're very proud of this and I feel like they should be. We have it's all female, the entire cast. There's no men in the cast. And the director is also female of the house and the composer.
Hmm.
And this is the first time for HHN.
And
So that's crazy.
it's not just a composer either.
No,
Now, as we always get slashed for the Universal Monster houses in Hollywood, uh, Orlando went out and got a like very legit Emmy nominated composer as well in Sarah Barone.
crazy.
So we have a very good score to look forward to, I believe.
We're finally getting an original score in an Orlando Monsters house. I am so excited for that. That is
Hmm.
something that, I mean, Hollywood always had a leg up because their score got to, Slash, I'm sure, like looked at the treatment, was able to work with it, and the music, was able to go with the scenes and whatnot. That's something I've always wanted us to do, and we're doing that now with an Emmy nominated composer. Like this score is going to be so good. Like I cannot wait on how it impacts the experience in the integral moments that they want you to feel something. That music can even help help you more feel those things that they want you to experience. This is just such a great thing, and I hope it continues even more so than just this house. I'm very happy they pulled out all the stops for this one.
Mhm.
Yeah. I hope this starts like a continuing thing where we get multiple houses, multiple different composers. Just give people a chance to do some cool shit.
Hmm.
Well, speaking of Slash as well, we did get some details for Hollywood. Of course, he is back, but we're also going to be getting a limited edition vinyl with both this house's score and all of his previous monster scores: 2017, Bride of Frankenstein, Legends Collide, Monsters Unmasked. So that'll be for sale. I believe they said it's limited edition. It is. It's right in the description. Yeah. So they showed the artwork at the panel. I thought it was really cool.
It looked
I don't.
great.
I
I mean, it
can't
Yeah,
looked.
describe it.
I like it a lot. It's very, going back to Jonathan earlier, very colorful, very bright, very
Mm,
vibrant.
Yeah.
with some of the house artwork, I remember seeing the Legends artwork for sure
Yep,
on
there
the
was
YouTube.
Unmasked was there. Absolutely. I think the well, for them 2017 Monsters artwork was there too.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
2018, I believe, right?
Were they? No. Oh, you're right. It
It
was
was 18.
2018.
Yeah,
2018. There was no 17, but
it's
Boo. It's
okay.
2018. You're
It's
right.
okay. But on top of that, we also know the location for this house in Hollywood. It is Soundstage 12, which Murdy gave us the entire history of this soundstage at the panel. But
like literally
the
all of it. That was pretty insane.
yeah, because it's the voice stage now, right? It was, or is it not the voice stage? It was the voice
It
stage.
was the voice stage.
Whatever. But the important parts of that is that this was actually where Bride of Frankenstein was filmed, Dracula, Frankenstein, and a million other fucking movies, like literally Jurassic Park. Like
Hell yeah.
this is crazy. We're getting a Bride house with Dracula in the soundstage where these things were filmed.
Hmm.
This is not real. Like we get to go through this house, but
We
I
get to walk in the soundstage. Like I don't like. I
yeah.
love the house, but like even just walking in that soundstage with nothing in it, I'd still be like, "Whoa, this is
Hmm.
cool," you know?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna go for. Is that I don't really care what you do at the house now. Getting to walk in there is gonna be pretty fucking awesome, and not just like walk in it, but walk in it and get it into this themed immersive experience sets built in it. So it's
Yeah.
very feels appropriate, feels right, exciting to step into history like that.
Ugh,
Absolutely.
women.
Now, we did get a ton more details, specifically relating to Hollywood. I'm sure some of this will cross over with Orlando as well, but this comes specifically from John Murdy because we're going to head over to his panel at Midsummer Scream for HHN Hollywood. So now, a warning again: this will contain some spoilers. Um, not again the most spoilery thing you could imagine, but it'll give you some details of what you'll see in the house. So if you don't want to hear that, I think you might want to step away for the rest of the episode potentially,
Yeah. Yeah, John
because
Murdy gives a lot of
he gives a
info
lot of
on.
details, and that's how we're going to
Mhm.
close out. So if you are hopping off, thanks for listening, and if you're not, let's take a ride.
I
So,
love that. Let's take a ride.
so we'll start where we left off here with Universal Monsters: Eternal Bloodlines. Just giving us more details, a lot mainly revolving around the characters themselves. Uh, Saskia Van Helsing is the last descendant of Abraham Van Helsing, and everyone else was killed by Dracula's daughter because Abraham murdered her father. So that's kind of the main tying point of this story. Bride has a little bit of a different wrinkle in there, but that's kind of what really brings this together. Is going up to Abraham and Dracula's father relationship that ended very poorly, as you can
it,
see.
it did. It did. Uh,
Also, oh, go ahead.
oh yeah, for sure. Oh, yeah, there's a lot of points here, so I'm sure we're all gonna be taking things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But the next thing that's interesting is he gave us a lot of looks of the different characters. One of them being the Bride of Frankenstein, and it had her costume, her look, basically what we saw in the key art. And he said straight up that it's inspired by the Monster Hunter look in the Bride of Frankenstein Lives. And if you look at it, you can sort of get those vibes that's what they were going for.
I love the knives.
Hmm.
I'm so into the knives across the
So
chest.
many knives.
It's giving Deadpool. Baby knife. Uh,
Only we get that reference.
sorry, Duff, you don't get
Okay.
to laugh at that one. Take it back.
No, I could see it. It's okay. It
Okay,
still works.
fine.
But
Uh,
yeah, I do. I really like that look, and it's kind of it really is just an evolved look of what we saw previously, which is fun. It's kind of like drawing directly from that story, like immediately. So that's a nice little touch.
Yeah.
yeah, I really do like it. And I mean, we'll get to the relationship to that house in a minute or a couple minutes. But the next thing that's really cool is we saw more art besides the Bride of Frankenstein. We also saw the main villain, and that's Dracula's daughter. We didn't even just see art; we saw even like masks too. But regardless, we saw two different pictures of Dracula's daughter. One mid transformation and one full transformation, confirming that there is going to be an evolution or transformation of the character either throughout the house or different scenes or whatever. But they looked really cool. How do we think the art looked for Dracula's daughter?
I thought
Good.
it was good. I don't think it stood out as much as any of the others, though.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. I can so I can see in the mouth where she's related to our Dracula, if that makes sense. And if you're not looking at the artwork, that sounds crazy. But the mouths are very much the same, like that very open, unhinged kind of thing. She's very bat-like.
Mm-hmm.
And that sometimes I love, sometimes I hate. I need to see the sculpt like on a face and not the one from the UK panel because that I know that was Orlando's, but whew, didn't love her. But again, I didn't love Phantom last year, and it's because that lighting sucks. So I'm nervous specifically for Dracula's daughter and for She Wolf. The other ones, they're gonna look great. I don't really care. But those sculpts, they can lean cheesy, and I don't want cheesy in this house. I want like vicious.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And you actually lead directly into the next point. If you know, the actual She-Wolf film within the Universal Monsters uh, universe, if you will, uh, never becomes a werewolf. Like it's more of a psychological game, right? Uh, However, John Murdy will take some liberties here, and She-Wolf will be a werewolf in this house. So that's definitely a new addition to the Universal Monsters, and not the only original thing John Murdy will be doing. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
um,
Shocking.
you did mention the sculpts, and I do agree. However, I love the concept art.
Hmm.
Looks phenomenal for She-Wolf.
Big fan of the concept. I'm gonna anxiously await our uh our RIP tour to see these in person.
Please.
Duff, I feel like you would like to get this one. Actually, it's Hollywood's Legends Collide. Who cares? But
Well,
anyways,
to be
do you
fair,
want to get?
it's also Orlando's.
It's true. It's true.
Also Orlando's. Yeah, I'll do it. Why not? Um, so John Murray mentioned that after showing the Anaxonomoon design, there is a necklace on them. Um, it is the amulet of Ra, which, if you didn't know, it comes from the Legends Collide House. So a nice little throwback there.
I did like that. I don't think it actually means anything, but I think it's a fun little thing.
Probably not, but it is a good way to kind of keep tying things together, even if they don't have a reason for it. It's fun.
Yeah. Absolutely. I already saw people like creating theories of like maybe the mummy one and gave it to to Ankh Sunuman and they or something like they came up with some fun sort of fan fiction or whatever. It's like yeah, people can do that with these monster houses. Just hey, maybe this relates to that. There's lots little things that sort of kind of tie together, not really, but kind of.
Oh
Sort
no,
of, kind of, maybe. Oh.
I'm fully placing every other monster's house with this house during the season. That's gonna be an episode. We're gonna connect the timelines.
And Murdy's
Ooh,
gonna listen to be like, yeah, sure.
Oh
whatever.
no, no, no,
Oh,
not
that
his
was a great
timeline.
idea.
Not his timelines don't count. I'm sorry.
That's
I
that's
should
fair.
have been more clear. He's like a multiverse.
Oh, that's I mean, literally later, we'll talk about a
Oh my
multiverse.
god, Jonathan, you're being a goblin.
I am being a goblin.
That's gonna be our new term.
Um, I do wanna get into this part because this was one of the most interesting parts about it. Because I think we were all kind of wondering why these 3 villains of the house are working together because 'cause they're all very different. Um we're talking about She-Wolf, Ankh-Sunamun. I think I'm saying that somewhat right. And Dracula's daughter. Why are they working together? It's because they're forming the Unholy Alliance. And it's unholy because Dracula's daughter is basically he gave like a triangle almost, and Dracula's daughter is on the top because she's the most powerful, and she's essentially controlling the She-Wolf and Ankh-Sunamun, and she's controlling them, and that's why they're on her side. And I think that is really cool. That it's not like everyone's just like, "Yeah, we're teaming up." It's like, no, there is like a full on reason is that Dracula's daughter basically they're her puppets.
Mhm.
It's giving legends collide, and that's why I wanna place them all in the universe together. She's acting like her dad.
I mean, that is very like her dad. Manipulation and mind control? Dracula?
What?
What? No
What?
way.
Remember when the Wolfman got sent all the way to Egypt, and he was trying to dig up the amulet, and then he still turned into a wolfman
No, that's just
right there?
that's because he was gullible. That's his fault.
I mean, but also Dracula.
Yeah, true. I don't think he did. I think he just sent a note, and Larry was like, "Yeah, yeah,
But
why
he
not?"
lied. He was a mysterious benefactor.
Yeah, well, he didn't use mind control. He just lied. Gullible.
Well, let's find out what the ladies do.
Mind control.
Probably.
So, do we want to get started with the house's story?
I like story. It's an important part of a house, so why not?
Yeah. Well, we got the starting location, and the story starts in Amsterdam. And the reason that location was chosen was because that's where the Van Helsing family was from in the original novel. And he also said in a very cool detail is that in this house, it is very, or like in this environment, it is very cold and snowy.
Mm, love a cold house.
I mean, yeah, and I would hope that Orlando's takes the same approach, because I mean, especially in Orlando, Hollywood, has some temperature changes, but like Orlando, when they want to make something cold, they can make something cold, and especially in the Florida heat outside, it could be brutal. And those houses walking in, and they're just like, sort of like refreshing, calming down a little bit. So I hope both coasts take this cold and snowy approach because I would really enjoy that.
It would be much appreciated.
And this is where we're literally getting into like house scene spoilers, just in case you were listening to the rest. But basically, the house starts at a funeral for the last male descendant of Abraham Van Helsing. They were just killed by Dracula's daughter or one of her minions, and Saskia is attending the funeral. Like it makes sense that she's attending the funeral of the last descendant of Abraham. And while at the funeral, the Dracula's daughter sends a bride over, bride of Dracula, to kill Saskia and to finish the job, to kill all the descendants of Van Helsing and to complete her mission. However, the bride of Frankenstein happens to be there at the same time because she was chasing or hunting that particular vampire. And because Murdy said like a particular line saying, "Why is she doing this?" Because that's what she was doing in the 2021 house. Um, and that is how they both end up meeting and forming an unlikely alliance.
Is it really unlikely, or is it likely?
Ah,
It's unlikely. It's kind of
yeah,
unlikely.
yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of random.
I had a question I proposed in the chat, and I still don't know because I'm still debating with myself. I can see both sides. The way I'm interpreting what he said, which to be fair, he kind of glanced over this part, so it's kind of hard to say. But the way I interpret it is he said like, "Why is she hunting vampires?" Is because that's what she was doing in the 2021 house. I interpret it as like this takes place because there were time jumps, like in both houses. Orlando, especially, there was a very clear time jump like maybe this was just during that part of the house we didn't see. And she's just getting, blood for Frankenstein. And maybe that's why Frankenstein's not in this. Or at least in Orlando's, because Orlando said it's all female. And then this just happens to happen while this funny coincidence happens as she's doing that task. But I know Jess, you interpret it as it happens after, and she's just like killing the vampires to finish the job of killing the vampires.
Yeah, because that's the way he made it seem. Because he said there's like one bride in this house specifically, and that's it. Or
Oh, there's only one bride of
that's
Dracula?
how I interpreted it, is that there's one bride and then the daughter, and the bride sends Myra to go kill Saskia. I also watched the panel twice, but I was not all here mentally is the way I'll word that.
Very
Um
fair.
but that's how I heard it, and to me I interpreted it as that yeah, the monster might be alive, but like he's back at the castle, holding the fort down with the kids. And she has to go kill the last bride, so there's no like vendetta against her.
I like
That
both of those
yeah,
scenarios. Like either way they went, I think I'd be happy with it.
I
I
do.
think I just sorry, Duff. I
No, go
just
ahead.
last thought. I interpreted it that way is because her costume has been updated.
Hmm.
My thought would be it would be the same costume, especially like if Murdy's saying this is the same thing. We haven't heard about Orlando's yet and
Right.
where it goes in the timeline. That's just the Murdy of it all, but he don't make no sense.
That's true too.
And I will say I do kind of lean with Jess on my interpretation that I think this does take place after. I do think the costume is a part of that, but I also think it feels like this hunting feels like actually chasing down to kill the way it's proposed, where um, not exactly what was happening for Lives, which was bringing them back to basically have them captured and then steal their blood, right?
Mm.
Hmm.
So this feels like the way it was put out, more like hunt down to kill and finish off.
I did not catch that this is the last bride. So if it is the last bride, that would make a lot of sense.
I don't know if it's last. I just heard one
Yeah,
bride
it just
and
sounds like
Dracula ain't got one.
singular. Yeah.
He got a lot.
There is a lot there.
Or maybe
Yeah.
this is just her mom. Like, I don't know.
Maybe. But yeah, they form an unlikely alliance, and then they head to Transylvania to go to Castle Dracula through the Borgo Pass, which was a place mentioned in the book and the movie. They make it there, and then they split up, which is something you should never do in a horror movie. They split up, and that is where the details ended for the house.
I will say it sounds very cool. It like there's a lot of fun story in this. Murdy also made me think that about their Legends Collide, and we know how
Yeah.
that went. So we'll see. I am excited for this. Do not get me wrong. I will be cautiously excited though.
Yeah. For Hollywood's. Orlando's, I'm fully
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah, I'm same boat as both of you guys. As much as I really want to be super excited for a Murdy Monster House, Murdy has not made a monster house that I really, really enjoyed, like not just because of the scares, but just like in general, since The Bride of Frankenstein lives.
Hmm.
I did not love Legends, and Unmasked, while I had lots of fun in it, and that's why it was relatively high on my list. I'm not gonna say it was a great house. I just had lots of fun. So I really want a house like his monster house that's like as good or like close to his bride was, like close to as good as bride was.
I I would take that in a heartbeat. That's a pretty decently high bar though.
Yeah, that's true. It's in a sounds. Maybe that will help. Maybe maybe this one doesn't get budget cuts again. We'll see.
Wasn't Exorcist also in a soundstage?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was more of a
That was a fill
like
in for a different IP.
yeah.
Oh no, I meant the one last year. Was that not a soundstage?
Oh, it was.
Believer?
Mm, mm.
I ain't talking about
Sorry,
I
sorry.
didn't see that one. No, you're good. But yeah, Believer was in a soundstage, and that one was a black wall house if I ever seen one. Red wall, excuse me.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
It wasn't Blackwall.
Sorry,
It
red.
it's a soundstage that Murdy cares about. So maybe
Yeah. We got
maybe
a
he's like
history lesson.
exactly. We got a whole history lesson. Maybe he's like, I can't put black walls in this one, knowing what came in, like what was filmed in here. But some like all the souls are watching him. Or like make this house inside of the soundstage. You know, so we can hope.
And I do hope. But I think we should probably move on. We spent a lot of time there, and I think we're going to spend a lot of time on this next one as well.
Hmm.
And as much as you want to take it, Jonathan, you talk too much. I'm cutting you
I
off. You're done.
That's fair.
You're
That's
done.
super fair.
until you talk a lot about this, which is fine. I fully understand. Go for it. But I'll kick us off with not only details of, but the announcement of a Hollywood exclusive from John Murdy, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the legacy of Leatherface.
Woo!
Woo. The
Featuring
description for this
Benoit.
house is fall victim to Leatherface and his cannibalistic kin as they lure you into their gore filled slaughterhouse in a gruesome, original story. Now, listen, one thing we talked a lot about between us when we were watching this was they're really going to let Murdy make his own story. But this does sound a hell of a lot better than just getting another Texas Chainsaw Massacre house. So I am excited. We did, of course, get the key art for this as well, which definitely pays homage to that legacy factor, where it's showing off different leather faces throughout the franchise. I think it's solid. Like it's for an IP, it's a really solid key art. I'm sure Jonathan agrees with that.
Hmm.
I
I
don't
do. I
I don't
do
know if
agree.
Jess does, but
It's good.
okay.
Yay, Leatherface. Woo. It's good. It's good.
Now, hopping into the details a bit, I think this part's a lot of fun because Murdy basically looked at one line from the series and said, "That's how I'm going to make this house. That's what I'm going to base this house off of." And that line was inspired by "My family's always been in meat." The scene from the original film, picked up as a hitchhiker. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
So yeah. So with that, we're gonna go somewhere this franchise has never really gone, and we're gonna go to the Hooper and Heek. Is it Heek?
I think so.
Meat processing and Sawyer meats.
Yeah, and that Sawyer meets is written in blood.
Yeah, over obviously Hooper, Toby Hooper, a reference to the director of the original. So that's a nice little callback. But now Sawyer meats. So this is an abandoned slaughterhouse that the Sawyers use to conceal what they are doing from the authorities. I think we all know what they're doing with meat. There will be a narration from Nub and Sawyer at this facade. So that's the first bit of a character detail we're going to get out of this. And that means we're going to get a Barker outside of a facade again, which always love and Hollywood loves to do.
Mhm. And yeah, I mean, we're it's not the funny part is the Barker, the person in front of the facade, isn't Nubbin Sawyer, which you would think, right? Because Nubbin Sawyer,
Hmm.
like Murdy, if you guys are interested in like learning what that is, Murdy gave the whole thing, the whole narration on the panel. If you want to listen to him, do his little voice and read it. He actually did a pretty good voice
Yeah, it
for the
wasn't bad.
hitchhiker.
It was pretty good.
It had the inflections and stuff. It was nice.
I will
Um,
not compliment him.
but in front of the facade, we get the thing that I did not expect out of this type of house, and that is we have Leatherface, but it's the 2017 prequel version. I think the movie was just called Leatherface, and that's because this house is taking a multiverse approach to the franchise. What does this mean? This means that every iteration of Leatherface will be in the house from all 9 films. Every single version will be in here. And it also takes place. I forgot to write this on the outline, but it takes place in a timeline parallel to the original film, that sort of takes place besides it and will end up like the house will end up going back to that original film, but it's sort of like a parallel timeline, parallel universe sort of, like to that original film. Stuff that was happening that we didn't see, kind of, sort of. It's a little, wonky, but it doesn't really matter for this type of thing. So yeah, we get introduced to the 2017 prequel version of Leatherface. He has like the pig mask on. Uh, he'll turn around, he has the words follow written in blood on like his back or neck. And then he leads the way Murdy described it is he leads you into the house. Like you follow him into the house. I don't know if that means like the performer is literally going to walk you in or something like that. That doesn't make a lot of sense, like flow wise. That's kind of how he described it, but I don't think that makes a lot of sense, but maybe. But that's how the house is going to start.
It sounds like a pretty fun little kickoff with a lot of action right off the bat. So I appreciate that. Uh,
Mhm.
I think it's much more intriguing than simply just here's the factory you're walking in. I'll always kind of take this additional aspect.
And it immediately, like, lets guests know, like, if people just watch the first one, "Who the hell is that guy?" What is that pig guy? And then you'll start to realize, who it is, probably when we get to the next scene, which is the mask shelf, which has all the different versions of, Leatherface's faces and masks and, human skin, that was peeled off, like, on a rack, on this big shelf. And Murdy gave such a fun reason for why all the Leatherfaces are in this house. It doesn't even matter because I don't think it really does in like my head, but he actually gave like sort of a logical reason and it's kind of cool. But basically, he described that in the original film, every uh there was like the actor said that Leatherface doesn't have a personality of his own. He only gets a personality from the faces he wears. So like for example, he puts on the I think it's officially called the pretty lady mask for like when he's at the dinner table, and then he has a killing face, and another face when he's helping wash the dishes and stuff. Like every face gives Leatherface a different sort of personality, and Murdy attributed this that every face can be attributed to a different task at the slaughterhouse because he gave a long history lesson of the what is it? It was the disassembly line about all the processes of getting, not going to get too far into that, but animals, disassembled. And Leatherface will have a different face for all those different processes in the slaughterhouse. And I think that is a very cool way, even if most guests won't get it, to incorporate all of them and to have it make kind of sense for the story.
Hmm. And now, when we dive into this too, Murdy gives a ton of detail. If you do want to see this, go check out our Twitter or Instagram. But you can see not just basically every scene in transition up until we get to kind of the end point that he'll give us. All the concept art of scenes, characters, all of it as well. So check out social media for that if you want that, because we're not going to dive that deep here, as you mentioned.
Hmm. That'd be given almost you know, it's more fun to look at the pictures and go along with Murdy as he talks than listening to us repeat what he says in terms
Hmm.
of that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, we're gonna go through the different steps of this assembly line. And some of the fun things to say is that we're gonna start at the holding pen, move to the animal chutes, and then et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Go through all those steps. I'm already explained that the animal chutes in particular, if you look at it, it's like a Halloween Horror Nights house style where there's lots of twists and turns and you can't see what's coming, like around you because if the animals saw what was about to happen, they would have not kept going. So it's sort of that style. So I think it's kind of cool that we're gonna sort of be walking through that a little bit. That's very, like we become the cattle that is going to get slaughtered,
Hmm.
which is very fitting for this property. And throughout these scenes, John Murdy mentioned characters we're going to see. And this will really show the multiverse approach here because we are going to see Nubbin Sawyer, aka the Hitchhiker, but we're also going to see his corpse, the corpse version of him from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Um, we're going to see Chop Top, which awesome. We're going to see Grandpa. We're going to see Drayton Sawyer, aka the Cook. We're going to see pretty much everyone you want to see from this type of house.
Mainly Chop Top.
Yeah, Chop Top would seem like yes. Chop Top seems to have a couple of scenes he's in, and every scene, he has like Murdy's mentioned, he has some type of banter either with himself or Leatherface. And it's like, oh, you Leatherface, like there's gonna be some cool little banter in there.
Hmm.
Um,
Which is great because I think if we go back to Orlando's HHN 30 Texas Chainsaw, I wanted more Chop Top.
Chop Top said some famous lines in our house, though. He went like, "Huh, huh."
Very famous, you know? That's what I remember him for.
Yeah. um, But we're gonna see all those characters. I'm excited. I'm excited that everyone's gonna be here. And after exiting the slaughterhouse, we are gonna be entering. He gave a whole nother history lesson on this part. We won't need to get into much into that. But we're gonna be entering a refrigerated train car. I'm pretty sure it's not actually working, so it's not cold, and that's the point because everything in there, which is going to be a bunch of bodies hanging, are going to be rotting and disgusting and smelly. A lot of this house is going to be smelly. Be prepared for that. But it's just going to be nasty. And then we're going to go forward to the Sawyer family graveyard, which has all the, I mean, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a graveyard for the Sawyer family. He even explained that they went to like a butcher shop and got like one of those pigs that are usually there and like put it up as if it was like a cross, like a religious symbol because they don't have religion. Their religion is meat. So that's their god, which was a wild touch. And then I mean that's just really funny. I
it,
love
it
that.
it is wild. That is for sure.
It's what I love out of this stupid amazing franchise. And then finally, like we all expect in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but Murdy somehow said it in a way that makes it like important, almost like I felt it, like I felt the power of this because we were going in a timeline parallel to original movie. We finally caught up with it. We enter the Sawyer house, and we see the iconic first kill from the original film, and that's I assume that's where it ends, or it ends with something else. But like that's like the final big thing that Murdy mentioned, and then lots of more details, but that's what we have here. And I want to know what are you guys thoughts on this new approach, this original take, this original story on Texas Chainsaw.
I think there's two reasons I'm really actually excited for this, especially getting an IP back that has been at HHN, specifically Hollywood, so many times, um, and that is this original take. I think if you're just bringing back any one of the films or just combining a couple, I would not be excited. I couldn't get excited for that again. I need a break. So I think getting an entirely new story, one that doesn't exist in the franchise, is going to be a lot of fun. Also, Murdy did mention how one of the times this has been here before was in 2007, and that is apparently considered one of the scariest, if not the scariest house they've ever done in Hollywood. And he said that's the bar for this house. So he is fully looking to make this the scariest possible thing he can. And like the setting, yeah, it sounds like he can work with that. And this could be fucking terrifying, unnerving, disturbing, disgusting. So I'm really looking forward to see how far he's willing to push that.
Hell yeah, I love all that. What do you think, Jess? Does this make you more excited for this house?
I don't know if Jess excited and Leatherface will ever really be in the same sentence.
That's I get that.
And it's nothing against him. I just find him to not be one of the interesting slashers, and that's
Mhm.
okay. I love that other people are excited for this. For me, the thing that makes me the most nervous is I think that slaughterhouses are kind of an easy haunt gag to just kind of like make it a setting and it's like, ooh, scary. People like animals get murdered here. Now it's
Mhm.
people. So that I worry about because that can come off cheap. I don't think that this is going to be cheap. I just worry because those are not my favorite kind of like general haunt settings. I'm
I
excited to see all the iterations though. Sorry, what were you saying?
No, I do see the concern with that because I mean, yeah, it could. I mean, it really could come off as a generic setting
Mhm.
if they don't do it right. If the sets aren't what they need to be, it could end up being that type of thing. Just generic setting. Oh, here's Leatherface.
Yeah.
Like you said, I don't think they're going that. Or I hope they're not doing that. But I mean, it's very much a possibility.
Yeah, and I hate to be like the buzzkill after everybody's so excited, but that's just like the first place my brain went when he started announcing everything. I was like, "Oh no, it's going to look like a spirit Halloween." Like and I don't want that. I think that the exciting parts of this for me are like seeing more than just the generic Leatherface. Like getting to see all the versions of him, that's really exciting. But this is something that will probably be at the bottom and will probably surprise me like Chucky did last year in Hollywood. So,
Mhm.
no expectation. I'd rather be like wowed than be super hype and be disappointed.
Good call,
Yeah,
I'd say.
Thank you. Especially for Murdy.
This definitely, like you brought up a good point. This does feel like the Chucky of this year. Um,
Mhm.
at least with an IP, because Murdy, this when he went on that panel and he started talking about this, you could tell he was proud of this thing, and he wanted everyone to know. He wanted everyone to know how cool this was, and how like much time he put into the research and making sure every location was different and all the the parts of this assembly line in the house and how important Texas Chainsaw Massacre was to the history of HHN Hollywood as a whole. I mean, you have balls to start the presentation talking about all the years you did Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Something that every agent, like agent in Hollywood local, would probably be like, "Yeah, we're getting it again, hooray!" Like boo, like we don't want it again. Like we keep getting him. To started off saying, "Here are all of our houses that we've done in a row," and then saying, "We're gonna make another one, but I promise you, this is a way different take." I mean, that's some balls there, um, reminding everyone of how many times it's happened. But I don't know, like this really excites me. I am so excited, not just for the fact that I love the Orlando house, I love the Hollywood house that I experienced, but I just love the multiverse approach, how in depth it looks like he's gonna go with the slaughterhouse. Like it really looks like every scene we're gonna be moving forward. The story is going to continue. I hope it's not just slaughterhouse, 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 but it's just this is the first step of the slaughterhouse, and this is the second step and the third step, and we are gonna essentially have a role in that we are the meat. I think that's such a cool touch. I love having all the characters in it. I love the significance of ending with the first kill. I think that is beautiful. And my favorite houses usually, sorry, screw you, Chucky, in Orlando. But my favorite houses usually are IPs that take an original approach. It's usually what ends up as my first, besides the one exception of Chucky in Orlando. And I think this is something that's gonna like very possible it's very possible it's gonna end up at number one if it hits the right notes for me.
I fully expect it to be your number one. I'm not gonna lie.
Like in rankings
In
or
rankings. In
wow,
rankings.
it very well could be, especially if they can scare the shit out of me as much as it did in the 2021 version. Oh yeah, it's very possible.
Hmm. Well, I think we could cap off Texas Chainsaw Massacre there. I'm happy there is some excitement around Texas Chainsaw returning to Hollywood because we thought there would be none originally when it was rumored. So uh, at least it's unique. But Jess, that's not the only thing that was announced. Do you want to take the other announcement from Midsummer Scream?
Oh my gosh, of course. I feel about this one how Jonathan feels about Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Let's be real. So we got a zone announcement, and this is going to be the zone that Monstros 2 exits into, and it is Luchadores Monstrosos. Ojo, you're about to get caught in the middle of a lucha libre horror film. Two luchadors are going to the mat against a horde of masked monsters. I love the key art. Before we get into the details we got, I'm a really big fan of this key art. I think it's fun. I think you know exactly what you're getting. It's no Orlando Monstros, but I'm excited for it. He did give us some fun details though. These are inspired by the luchador cinema, a specific genre of horror from Mexico from the 60s and the 70s, which we did see a couple months ago on Wiki. I remember, I don't know what I was looking up, like La Llorona or El Cucuy or something from back in the day in Hollywood, and it's El Cucuy. That house was supposed to have taken place in a luchador film, like a very
Mm-hmm.
specific thing we found out when we were researching.
Mm-hmm.
So it did lead us here. I'm not educated on that at all, but obviously Murdy is, I guess, or he researched it enough to talk about it for a minute. But these are monster wrestlers fighting monster wrestlers, and they're different.
They are different.
Um, he did give us he gave us art of the whole cast, actually, like a little group concept sketch, including the stilt walking character, the Bat. And these we
Yeah,
saw on Immortal masks, I believe, also over the summer.
Yes.
I think so.
Very excited. I'm so
Yeah,
ready.
yeah, he gave like if you guys are interested, if you watch the whole panel, there's art of like every single character. like in there, and a lot of them are inspired by the Universal monsters.
Mhm.
There's like a creature one and a wolf man, like so they're really fun to look.
Frankenstein. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's some really fun ones.
Mhm.
And they all like, if you're a wrestling fan, they're all wearing tights and, like, little kick pads and lucha masks. It is so fucking cute. I am so excited. I wanna see them, like I know they're not gonna be doing, like, moonsaults off the Moulin Rouge, but how fun would that be if you just saw, like, a little Frankenstein guy doing a fucking, like, hurricane rana into the scare zone?
If they hired like actual luchadors, they were doing flips and shit,
Oh
be great.
my god. I wanna see WWE wrestlers go to the scare zone.
I think they'd have a good time for sure.
Rey Mysterio, he's just running around.
I will say this sounds a lot more exciting than what we got last year.
Mm-hmm.
Momias did sound kind of cool in concept, but we later found out we just got the same scare zone 2 years in a row with new scare actors, basically. Um, so this is a completely new take. So I don't see what they could possibly repeat that they did before. So definitely should be better.
Yeah, I'm not much into like wrestling and stuff like that, but this seems like very goofy in a good way, and I think it's something that I'm gonna really enjoy because I love that sort of silly stuff and just like a a luchador costume of like the creature being worn by a monster that I don't think is the creature, but looks very much like the creature is so stupid that like I'm gonna fall in love with it looking at it in person. Like I'm actually really excited for this zone.
I feel the same way. Just looking at it, fall in love.
Mm.
And it is the zone location that typically is the good one if there is one. So
Yeah.
there's that.
The intense one, oh my god.
It
Love
can get
intense.
scary.
They run at us. They're, like, waiting for you when you get out of the house too.
Mhm.
All right, well, let's move on from that then, and we can head on to a few more details we got from Midsummer Scream before another announcement that took place today, the day after Midsummer Scream. Um, First, a tease about Sweet Lick's van. Um, it has been remodeled, as it tends to get remodeled throughout the years, to a non-announced something. And what we see from this is a very colorful van where on the back you can make out chainsaw punks. And then, of course, right next to this is a guy with a chainsaw and a mohawk who is also very colorful. So I'm going to take a
With an
wild
X,
guess. We're going to get a scare zone called Chainsaw Punks
not with a Z.
with an X.
Can I can I also guess that it's gonna be the entrance zone because they have chainsaws?
I guess you could.
Probably
Yeah,
pretty safe. Pretty safe.
I bet you they're gonna do the chainsaw chase out too.
I bet that's a great idea.
I mean, it looks cool and colorful and vibrant. We keep getting back to colorful and vibrant being a good thing, I guess. Otherwise, I wouldn't have much hype because I never really enjoy this zone. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
I
like the
always forget it
colors.
exists.
I mean, because it
Yeah.
feels like it just blends in, just fully
Wasn't
blends
it?
into the other zone. So,
Wasn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah, last year it was Toys, Dolls, whatever.
Ghosts.
Ghosts.
Toys, Dolls,
Toys, Doll,
Ghosts.
Ghost. This year it'll be Chainsaw Punks with an X.
Toys, Ghosts.
No, no Toys Ghosts. Just Chainsaw Punks and Van.
And
The van will
Van.
separate
And
them,
Van.
I guess.
Yeah, sure. If you say
I don't
so.
know. It's giving me like heavy metal hell, Slaughter Cinema almost a little bit. I'm not mad at that. I
Yeah,
j-
okay. It does. It does.
I like a punk aesthetic. I like a neon shocker.
I, I
I'm gonna have a good time.
I'm into the aesthetic. I just don't like this zone. Just feels non-existent
Yeah,
otherwise. So
yeah.
It
The
will help
location sucks.
it will help make the merch feel more coherent if they stick with this style.
They're the only ones tying the merch into the event this year.
Looks like it.
hey,
Good for Murdy.
hey, we got a room, sort of, kind of.
Yeah, yeah.
This is
We'll
a
see.
lot closer though to the actual like merch designs we saw.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well let's
uh
move on from that. Where we got some concept art for a new character called Mama Crow. Mama Crow looks like she liked Woodstock a little bit. Um, but that's going to actually lead us directly into the announcement. So let's just hop in because we already know what's going on. And that is our crows, our lovely friends over at Hollywood, have been upgraded to an official scare zone now. Uh, you've been you've foolishly ventured into a massive crow's nest. Now the fearsome flock will defend its territory by descending upon you in a feathered rage and pecking your bones clean. Murder of crows.
This was something I was not expecting.
No.
Like we're all expecting the crows to come back because they come back every year. Like it's just something that happens. They're walk around characters. They have some fun with the guests, and it's just a funny thing. Sometimes they're out, by the H lot. Sometimes they're somewhere else in the park. They're just kind of just walk around places. Um, so them actually getting upgrade to a full zone, which hopefully means props. I mean, I'm not gonna say story because it's a Hollywood zone. Props, some music that's themed to them is really cool, and that they're all gonna be in one specific area. And I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of them, and hopefully not everyone is just the stilt walkers, but you'll also have like baby crows that are running around and scaring you, like in between the stilt walkers. Like I was not expecting this, and this is something that could end up being really fun.
Yeah, they've proven to work in the streets, so I don't see why it wouldn't carry over into fully fleshing it out as a zone. I'm sure it will get some props, and it'll definitely get some music, probably dubstep. Um, I hope it's a little bit more than I would anticipate it to be, but at least it's a nice kind of floor to be at. Is that the scare actors are fun and cool, or at least they have been in the past. So I don't see why that would change this year.
Do you have any opinions on the Crow Scare Zone, Jess?
Not really. I'm
That's
sorry.
so fair. That's so fair.
It's gonna be with the punks, I guess. So they were in the Dolls Toys Ghost last year, just
Yeah,
kind of
they
walking
were.
around anyways. So whatever. I'm
But
Yeah.
excited to see them
they're
again.
so
Sorry,
official now.
sorry for my non-enthusiastic answer.
I mean, we've seen them so much. I get it. Like
Yeah,
this isn't like a new thing.
yeah.
To be fair, I don't think anyone was super enthusiastic.
No, Mama Crow looks like I don't know, like a redneck mom. I don't know her vibe. We'll see.
The key art's fun.
I do like the key art. It's kind of straightforward, but I like the colors they're using in there.
Hmm.
It's just colors with us. We just like
I
pretty
like
colors on
colors.
365.
I like some color. But yeah, so that wraps it up for that announcement. Um, the last little piece of news we have here is something that's been happening for a while, and that's that HHN merch. Official HHN merch is available on Amazon. More of Amazon standard shirt quality than actual HHN shirts, which I guess this year could be a good thing from what we've seen.
Yeah.
Aside from that, after Midsummer Scream, they made a bunch of stuff that was talked about available. You may have seen a poster that had El Chato on it. That's available on a shirt. The Luchador posters. They have a few of those available. So stuff immediately available for HHN 2024 in Hollywood if you want to go grab that immediately from Amazon.
I like having more art for original stuff. Even
Yeah.
if it might not be the best quality, like I like having the option, and just getting a bunch. I mean, if you look on the sort, there's a lot of artwork for from
Mhm.
luchadors and some mixtures with the universal monsters and different things like that. It's kind of really fun to see all the art on there.
I will say we did see a picture of the shirt, the El Chato shirt, that was at Midsummer Scream, and the quality looked
Yeah.
On par with the rest of the merch this
oh
year.
worse.
No, I mean I saw it, but
That print
yeah.
quality was
It looked like the Ghostbusters one to me, like how bad it
it
was, because
was
that's still my least favorite out of
it
all
was
of them.
so bad. Like it looked like I could have made that at home, like with paint.
Yeah, you probably could.
So if that's the actual Amazon shirt, then that's a hard pass from me. But hey, if you want to take a shot on it, then go for it. The posters, on the other hand, grab that.
I might need a poster. I'm not even kidding. I'm thinking about it. Eugene's so mad he's missing that zone. I'm not even gonna lie.
I can imagine.
Oh,
I
he's
can
so angry.
definitely imagine.
Ugh. I'm so happy. I'm sorry.
And
All right, before we go,
yeah.
I cut you off there. Sorry. We do have a voicemail.
Hey, HHN 365 fam. It's your friend from Southwest Texas, El Churro Guapo. So one of the voicemails last week triggered a memory that I've been meaning to tell you guys, and that is congratulations. I have been with you listening to your podcast for many years now, and I am happy to see, proud to see that influencers, popular influencers, are mentioning your podcast. So you guys have come a long way, and I think you guys deserve a little recognition for all your hard work and efforts to the HHN community. I also wanted to share a little theory that I had when I was all the announcements and Eternal Bloodlines being announced for Universal Monsters House. I am ecstatic. I am excited. That's probably going to be my favorite house of the year. And it's, if memory serves me correct, it is a sequel to the Bride of Frankenstein Lives house that's one of my favorite monster houses ever. So my theory is that Van Helsing is going to do a heel turn on the Bride. I think this because the Helsing family is huge on killing, destroying monsters because they feel they're a plague or a menace to society. But I think
El
they're
Churro
teaming
Guapo,
up in this
that's so nice, and
house because
we thank you
of
for
the
always
Bride
being
taking
a
out
listener,
the Bride
always calling
Yeah.
in, leaving us
Dracula to
voicemails, so we
revive
get to chat and discuss about
Frankenstein.
more
But
unique
I
takes like
think
this one
near
we're
the
about to
end,
go over.
we
That makes
might
a lot of
see a
fun.
heel turn that
So
can
we
set up a
appreciate you.
possible
Thank you so
sequel in the
much.
future of The Bride of Frankenstein
But to the point
and
of
Frankie
your heel
versus the
turn, if
Helsing
you will,
family.
I
I
think
want to know your
that would be
take,
a
but
lot of
again,
fun and
congratulations
kind of
and thank
unexpected.
you for all the
I don't
hard
think
work
you
on
really
your
see
podcast and to the community.
stories really
And
turn
I'll
like
keep
that in a
listening for
house.
breakdowns.
So I think
Thank you,
if they
guys.
Yeah.
did that, that would add a lot of intrigue to that story.
Yeah. That wow. I don't know cuz they do separate. So who knows like when they separate
Hmm.
maybe she does come back, but my thing is then so it's then Bride versus it's Bride and Frankie versus everyone cuz I don't think they have anyone in their corner anymore after that.
Hmm.
So that's really interesting and thank you for using wrestling terms.
Mhm.
But I believe that was the only voicemail we had, right?
Yep, that's it.
With that, that's all we had for this week's episode at all. So, if you made it through this episode, I know it was a long one. We had a lot to go over. Still blaming Jonathan. Sorry, Jonathan.
I'm sorry.
Go follow us on social media Twitter, Instagram, YouTube at HHN365, our TikTok at HHN365pod. Go join our Discord server. Talk about all this daily, 24/7 if you want to. There are people typing at 4 a.m. It happens. That
Mhm.
link is in the description. Check out our merch shop at hhn365.com. We probably have better quality than those Amazon shirts, just saying. And leave us a voicemail at 407-906-4134. And we will see you next week, and we'll see you in the streets.